Grace is a lovely, outgoing, fun-loving, family-orientated daughter. Grace has never been out of contact for this amount of time.
6 terabytes. That is how much camera footage investigators have to work through. Nearly 6 terabytes of CCTV data pulled from across Auckland City. Hours of footage compressed into a single question that nobody in that incident room wants to answer. Where is Grace Millane, and why has she not come home? It is December 5th, 2018. Her family reported her missing this morning, 4 days after they first understood something was wrong. Because families do not report the people they love missing on the day the silence starts. They wait, they reason, they find explanations that let them sleep. But Grace Emmy Rose Millane has not responded to a single message since the night of December 1st. She has not answered either of her phones. She did not reply on her birthday. Her brother Declan has been receiving photographs and voice notes from his youngest sister in a near-daily flood since October. A running record of someone alive and moving through the world with total presence. He knows what the silence means before he is ready to say it out loud. Grace was a home bird. This was a red flag. The footage finds her. Investigators locate her at Sky City on the evening of December 1st. Then at a bar called the Bluestone Room. And then, unmistakably, walking arm in arm through the entrance of the City Life Hotel with a man she has known for a few hours. They step into a lift together. The cameras follow them out onto his floor. The recording continues, 1 hour, 2 hours, all the way through the night and into morning. And Grace Millane does not appear again. She had left the base backpackers on Queen Street just before 6 p.m. that Saturday. Knee-length black dress, white shoes, small handbag. She had matched with someone on Tinder. He claimed to be an oil manager living in a hotel. At first, Grace wasn't completely sure about meeting him, but they kept talking and eventually made plans. Before she headed out into the city, she sent a message to her friend Amina back in England. I click with him so well. He's an oil manager. He lives in a hotel. About an hour into the evening, they moved from Sky City to the Bluestone Room. At some point, Grace got up from the table. The man reached over, opened her handbag, and quietly searched through it before she returned. Just after 9:30 p.m., they left the bar arm in arm and disappeared down the street. She did not come back. Grace Emmy Rose Millane was born in Essex, England, in 1996. She was the youngest of 3 children, the only daughter, raised by David and Gillian, alongside her 2 older brothers, Michael and Declan. Sociable, creative, compassionate, the kind of person others described not by what she had done but by how she made everyone around her feel. She graduated from the University of Lincoln with a degree in advertising and marketing. Before she left for her travels, she had cut off her long hair and donated it to the Little Princess Trust, so it could be made into wigs for children with cancer. She had saved for a year to make the trip possible. In October 2018, she left her family home and set off. She went to Peru. She spent 6 weeks in South America. She met other travelers along the way and shared everything with everyone back home. On November 19th, 21-year-old Grace arrived in New Zealand alone. 11 days later, she reached Auckland and checked into the base backpackers on Queen Street. The man in the footage was identified quickly. The very night Grace was last seen, she had updated her Facebook profile picture. Beneath it, a comment had appeared, beautiful, very radiant, posted by the same man seen walking her into the City Life Hotel. His name was Jesse Kempson. He was currently residing at the hotel. He had also written a separate post expressing regret for his mistakes, his arrogance, and his selfishness. Police had everything they needed to know who to find. Jesse Kempson was 26 years old, born in Wellington. Everyone who knew him said the same thing, a pathological liar. He had told people he was a cousin of a famous All Blacks rugby player, that he was dying of cancer, that he was a professional softball player signed to New Zealand's national team, the Black Sox, waiting on contract money. A story one former landlord eventually put to the Black Sox management directly, finding nothing. He had told his landlord at the City Life Hotel that he was a top manager for Woolworths. His rent was being paid by state benefits. His last job in telephone sales had ended in dismissal for dishonesty. That dismissal happened on December 1st, 2018, the same day he met Grace Millane on Tinder. On December 5th, Jesse was asked to come in for routine questions. He sat comfortably. He said the evening had gone well and that they had parted ways on the street at around 10 p.m. A hug, a kiss on the cheek, a plan to meet again the following day. He said he had tried to message Grace on Tinder the next morning and found she had unmatched him. That was where his version ended. He agreed without hesitation to provide a voluntary DNA sample. "I know I haven't done anything wrong," he said. When detectives told him plainly that Grace might have been murdered, that it was possible he had done it, he sat very still. He asked quietly if he had been arrested. He was told he hadn't. Not yet. The CCTV from the City Life Hotel made his story impossible. Despite Jesse saying they parted on the street, the footage showed both of them arriving at the hotel arm in arm. They exited the lift on Jesse's floor. Grace was never seen leaving the building. What cameras recorded over the following hours required no interpretation. On the morning of December 2nd, Grace's 22nd birthday, Jesse left the hotel alone and went shopping. He bought a suitcase, then cleaning supplies. Just before noon, he took a taxi to a car rental company and rented a red Toyota Corolla. Several hours later, he met a woman he had matched with on Tinder. By now, detectives would later realize something disturbing. Every move Jesse made after Grace disappeared wasn't random. It looked like a carefully planned attempt to erase every trace she had ever been in that room. She reported afterward that he had spoken casually about burying bodies and mentioned having friends who were police officers. He offered her a ride home. She refused and never contacted him again. That evening, Jesse hired a Rug Doctor carpet cleaning machine. He told the staff he had red wine stains that needed dealing with. At 9:30 in the evening, he loaded 2 suitcases onto a hotel trolley and transferred them into the Toyota. Around 7 a.m. the following morning, he was captured on camera buying a shovel. 2 hours later, he was filmed power washing the car. He returned the vehicle to the rental company, where it was hired out by someone else almost immediately. On December 5th, while Grace's family was at the police station filing their missing persons report, Jesse was moving through the city and disposing of things in bins. Police arrived at the City Life Hotel at the same moment he was returning. He saw the officers at the front desk. He turned immediately and walked in the opposite direction, head angled firmly away. They recognized him, followed, and brought him in. A thorough forensic search of his hotel room followed. Despite everything he had done to clean it, Grace's blood covered the floor. On December 7th, David Millane stood before cameras in Auckland and made a public plea for information. He had flown from England alone. Grace's mother Gillian could not be there, and the rest of the family remained back home. He was composed in the way that the most unbearable grief sometimes forces a person to be. "Grace has never been out of contact for this amount of time," he said. "She's usually in daily contact with either her mother and myself, her 2 brothers, members of the family on social media." Police stated they had grave concerns for her safety. The more time passed, the more that phrase felt less like a precaution and more like an admission. On December 8th, Jesse was taken back into custody. His first story was gone. He offered another. He said Grace had begun talking about 50 Shades of Grey, that the encounter had become physical and rough at her request, that he had held her throat, that he had fallen asleep in the shower and woken to find her dead, that he had panicked, placed her body in a suitcase, and driven out to bury her. He denied murder. He said he had not known what to do. That same afternoon, police searched Scenic Drive near the Waitakere Reservoir. Shortly after 4 p.m., officers found a body around 10 yards from the road. They expected it to be Grace. It was. The pathologist confirmed she had been strangled. She had bruising on her arms and chest consistent with being pinned down. Considerable force would have been required. The pressure on her neck must have lasted between 4 and 5 minutes to be enough to kill her. And at around 1:30 a.m. on Sunday, while Grace lay dead in his room, Jesse had used his phone to search for hottest fire, flesh-eating birds, and Waitakere ranges. He trawled through a pornography site. He took several intimate photographs of Grace's dead body. Jesse Kempson was formally charged with the murder of Grace Millane. On December 10th, just 5 days after she was reported missing, he appeared in court in Auckland and was granted interim name suppression, which is why footage of him from this period remained blurred in news coverage for so long. Just over a month after Grace was found, hundreds gathered at Brentwood Cathedral in Essex for her funeral. Detective Inspector Scott Beard, who had led the investigation in Auckland, flew to England to pay his respects and support the Millane family. 6 days after Grace was laid to rest, Jesse appeared in the High Court and entered a plea of not guilty. His trial began in November that year and lasted 3 weeks. Jesse remained largely stony-faced throughout, occasionally glancing at court papers or holding his head in his hands. His defense team argued that Grace's death was the result of consensual rough sex that had gone tragically wrong, a case of sexual misadventure in which Jesse had panicked but had never intended to kill. They claimed Grace had engaged in encounters like this before. Many in the courtroom and across the country felt that framing for exactly what it was: the deliberate dismantling of a dead woman's character to protect the man who had ended her life. The prosecution answered with the evidence, piece by piece: the suitcase, the cleaning supplies, the rug doctor, the shovel, the power washing, the internet searches made while she lay dead on the floor. They described 5 to 10 minutes of sustained strangulation, a man maintaining a grip while a woman lost consciousness, became limp, became lifeless, and he carried on. And they called what Jesse had built afterward a labyrinth of storytelling and lies, constructed calmly and methodically from the first hour onward. On December 22, 2019, after 5 hours of deliberation, Jesse Kempson was found guilty of the murder of Grace Millane. He was sentenced to life in prison with a minimum non-parole period of 17 years. The judge noted that he was a large and powerful man and that Grace had been diminutive, finding her particularly vulnerable in those circumstances and him in a position of total physical dominance. Grace's mother Jillian addressed her daughter's killer directly in court. "On a daily basis, I torment myself over what you did to my Grace, the terror and pain she must have experienced at your hands. As a mother, I would have done anything to change places with her. I sit full of guilt, knowing I couldn't help her. She died terrified and alone in a room with you." David spoke of a family ripped apart, of suffering that a verdict could not reduce, and of gratitude to the Auckland police for being professional, diligent, and thorough throughout, and to the people of New Zealand, who had opened their hearts to Grace and to his family in a way he said he could not fully put into words. D.I. Scott Beard said what the evidence had suggested for a long time, that if it hadn't been Grace, it would eventually have been someone else. New Zealand's Prime Minister stood before cameras and apologized to Grace's family on behalf of a nation. "Your daughter should have been safe here and she wasn't," she said, "and I'm sorry for that." Thousands lit candles. A detective flew across the world to sit in a cathedral in Essex. And Grace Millane, born in 1996, the youngest of 3, the girl who gave her hair away before she ever left home, was buried not far from where she grew up. Remembered not as a cautionary tale, but as a person who moved through the world with complete openness, Grace had traveled the world with excitement, curiosity, and trust. Those who loved her remember her for exactly that. Not for the man who took her life, but for the life she lived before she ever met him. If you believe that the names of people like Grace deserve to be spoken with care and told in full, stay with us. There are more stories that need exactly that.